we love one another, we care for one another, and I think that has helped us really keep the family together. We're all serving the Lord to the best we can. We're not perfect at it, but we're serving the Lord. But I think that mission, vision, and values has really helped us keep the family together. So we come together once a year, we celebrate, we talk about what we're about and what the family's about.
Hey, welcome to Wealth Beyond Riches here on YouTube. Today's episode, we're going to talk with the founder and CEO of the Hobby Lobby organization. Hobby Lobby you might recognize from driving down the street and knowing it's an arts and crafts store with all kinds of things inside. What you may not know is it started with a $600 loan, and now they have over 1,000 stores and over $7.5 billion in revenue. So we get the amazing opportunity to talk with David Green and then also Bill High, who is a family consultant for families who are looking to build a generational legacy plan into their business. And so this is an amazing conversation. We get to talk about family, we get to talk about faith, we get to talk about values, and you're going to get a ton out of it. They have written a book called The Legacy Life that is coming out October 14th. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. You're going to love this conversation. David is a Christian, and so he's going to be talking from the Christian worldview. And I just like to let people know about that ahead of time. I don't think there's anything offensive in what he's saying. And it's actually super meaningful just to hear how much his faith means to him and how they give away all of their profits of their company. They invest some into opening new stores, and then they give the rest away. And no one in the family is actually taking any profits. So check this out. No matter where you're at, this is going to be good. David, as I think about Hobby Lobby, I know it's way more than just a store or just a business, but I think with any story, understanding the context is super helpful. And my guess is a lot of the people listening maybe don't know the backstory of Hobby Lobby, starting out with a $600 loan and now it's billions in revenue. Kind of walk us through what is the Hobby Lobby story? How did it come about?
Yeah, actually, we borrowed $600 from the bank to start manufacturing little frames. So our first business was making small frames. And so we had my two children that were 7 and 9 gluing the frames together. And my wife, I was still working my job at the TGNY. And so she ran the business for the first 5 years. And so that's how we got started, is making little frames. And after about 2 years, we had enough money to open our first store, which was only 600 square feet. So it's a real small store here in Oklahoma City. And so that was in 1972. And so now we have over 1,000 stores. So God has blessed us, and we've taken one day at a time, and God has blessed us, and we're thankful for what He's done to help us with our business.
That's incredible. That's so cool to hear. It's, I think most people are familiar with driving by a Hobby Lobby, but to think of in your home, banging together little picture frames together with your kids, it's just so interesting to hear how something starts. As the business started to grow, I don't know, did you have a vision for how big it was going to get and how you were going to grow at the beginning? Like what was kind of the thought process at the beginning?
Well, I came from TGNY, which has a chain store. So I thought in those manners. I didn't think about one store. But on the other hand, I guess I didn't think of what we have today. So God has blessed us to where we have a lot of stores. I don't think I ever thought of this many stores, but at least I was thinking of multiple stores because that was the background I came from. Yeah. But when you're thinking about $600, you're not thinking too much about multiple stores. You're just thinking about, can you make it till next month or next year? So obviously it was awful slow going, and we just kept with it and was blessed.
What'd you make that first year, by the way?
Actually, the first year we made $30,000. So that was with the first year I left TGNY in 1975, and so before that we weren't making any money. I think we were just barely surviving. So, but anyway, it's been a good ride, and we've learned a lot in hard times.
Yeah. And David, what did you pick up from your parents that helped you with building the stores and growing the company?
My parents were Christians. In fact, they were pastors and of small churches. And I guess the main thing that I learned from them is their giving. They were really good at giving what little they had, you saw them give.
Mm.
In fact, when I was growing up in the 40s, there wasn't a lot of tithe given by money. It was farmers bringing their vegetables or whatever, and I'd watch my mom and dad list these things so that they could pay tithes on them. So I knew that they really had a heart for the Lord, and so that really impressed me. They didn't just talk it, they lived it. So I watched them, and I knew that was exciting for them to live for the Lord, and so I think that really impressed the 6 kids to serve the Lord as well. So it was really interesting to watch my parents in the scriptures and the Word. Their prayer life, their entire life was something that really was something that excited us.
Yeah, Tim, and if I can jump in on that one, just because we reference the idea in the book, but he certainly didn't know how to scale a business because they were pastors of small churches. 100 people in a church was a really big church, but it just teaches us the idea that the values are way more important than the business skills.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about David and Bill's new book coming out called The Legacy Life. I was fortunate enough to get a pre-release copy and have been reading it over the past couple weeks. I love this humble beginnings into, David, you talked about kind of survival mode at the beginning, and now in your early 80s, now talking about legacy. When did legacy start to enter the picture for you as a mindset, as a goal of the business?
I remember when I got married, my wife and I came together and we said, I think we were talking about legacy at that time, but we just said in our lifetime, we have a few desires, and one of them that we would have marriage that lasted till life. And so we've been married for 63 years, and one was that our children serve the Lord. Our children serve the Lord. And the other, that we want to be successful in business. Those were the 3 things that I wanted and Barbara wanted when we first married, and we talked about it.
Yeah.
But subsequent to that, it's telling as many people we can about Jesus, not just telling our children that we thought about. Now it's our great-grandchildren, and then telling as many people as we can on the planet about the good news of Jesus. So that's kind of what our legacy hopefully will be, is that we'll continue on when we pass.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like it started from a conversation around values, like you were saying, Bill. How here's our values, here's the things we want to live for, and we don't just want it to stop with our kids, but we want it to continue on. I think about any successful business person, gentlemen, and Bill, in your work consulting with families and helping them create some of this legacy mindset and passing on values to the next generation, not just wealth or money. What are 1 or 2 practical ways that somebody could make that shift from, in the book, there's a chapter on one of our biggest enemies is short-term thinking. How do we switch from short-term thinking from, I just want my kids to have a better life than mine, or I just want my kids to be able to buy a house, or I just want to set them up. There's a lot of talk like that in society today. But what you're talking about is very different, is how do I create something sustainable that's going to bless future generations, not just give them stuff. How do you help people start to make that shift?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big ideas that we want to encourage people to think about. And when you look in history, if we go to Europe, we go to other parts of the world, you'll see families that are still going 1,000 years later, family businesses. And we don't have that mindset in the U.S. We tend to think about, I'm going to build something and I'm going to sell it, and then I'm going to go sit on a beach. And we don't think about, no, it's my kids, my grandkids, great-grandkids. But we define legacy as this idea of legacy is what you set in motion. It's that future day on up ahead. And so we want families to think way longer. So I know this program is about wealth beyond riches and retirement. Well, if it's retirement that you're looking for, that's great, but how are you going to invest in your kids, grandkids? And David says this a lot, is that it's way easier to be successful in your business. And we talk about that idea, of course, is that you'll see people that spend thousands of dollars on consultants to help them develop their company vision, mission, values, and spend thousands of dollars on company culture. But for some reason, we don't do that in our family. It doesn't make sense. It's crazy. And so we just encourage families to clearly articulate, write down, and teach their family values. What are your 3 to 5 family values? What's your clear vision for your family that extends into the generations? What's your mission statement? What are you going to do every single day? If we worked as hard at building family culture as we did at company culture, our country, our world would be way different than it is today.
That's so interesting. It's really refreshing to hear. What is it, do you think, that it is that keeps us from investing more in our family and our family values and passing that on? Like what hinders us from doing that?
Well, I mean, David tells the story, maybe you'll get to it, but in that short-term thinking, it's this idea that we're just focused upon the next goal. And you understand that. It's the idea, I'm going to graduate from high school. Maybe I'll go to college. I'm going to get in business. I'm going to start a career. And we're always waiting for that next day, the slower day to come. And unfortunately, that slower day doesn't come until way too late. And then how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube? It's very difficult to do that. So we got to start now. And we've got to own this idea that there really is this generational legacy kind of mindset.
We bring all of our co-managers into this corporate office and talk to them. So everybody that becomes a manager, all over 1,000 of them have been here, and we just talk to them about our culture and their culture. In fact, we tell them the more important than this business, we're supposed to tell them how important it is, and they got to do a good job. But we said more important is your family. And so that's what we need to start. That's where Barbara and I needed to start.
Yeah.
What's really important? What's really important is your family. No matter what your job is, what your income is, nothing compares to your family. And so I think we have to start with knowing how important the family is. And that, I think, gets us where we want to be. And so we encourage those that come to work with us the same thing. More important than this business is your family, taking care of them. And that's why we close on Sunday. We close at 8 o'clock. Is that the family can be have more time with the family than if you're working long hours. So we try to prove it by how the number of hours we work. So we just try to get it across to us, me, Barbara, and everybody, that their family needs to be looked at much, much more important than how much money they make or what job they have. And so hopefully that's we get that across, because we think that's very important.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, Tim, that your listeners hear this, is that you don't have to run a Hobby Lobby. You don't have to have 1,000 stores. This applies to every single family, whether you're an hourly worker at Hobby Lobby or whether you're the CEO of your own company. This idea of every person, if they're intentional about it, they can have a great family that thrives not only now, but for generations to come.
Yeah. David, you talked about some of the sort of guardrails that Hobby Lobby sets for people to be able to reserve time for their family, like being closed on Sundays, closing at a reasonable time. What did you and Barbara do early on that kind of put those guardrails in place?
I think first it's so important to have guardrails in your family. We've always thought it was important to be at church. We never miss church. No one in our families ever said, are we going to go to church today? Because we're going to go to church. Now, that doesn't get you where you need to be, but it's just one of those important things that we thought was important in our lives. And then the other thing I think is very important is walk the walk as best you can. We're certainly not perfect parents, but walk the bit that you can and let them know what's important. And that comes down to in our giving. What we have, we want to let the kids know that it's what's important is it belongs to God, and how we handle our money really tells sometimes our children what's really important in our lives. And so what's important in our lives is serving the Lord and trying to be a good servant and a good steward with whatever he gives us. So those are the things we tried to do when we started. And then we also did a lot of fun things. We drove in 44 states. We had an old camper that we'd all have a job of putting it together at KOAs and skiing. And so we had a really good time raising our kids and being with them. So that's been exciting for us. But I think the kids usually follow their parents when the parents are really faithful in what they say they believe.
So I heard the values of faith, generosity, and fun in there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are awesome.
Yes.
Those are really good. Sorry, if you guys can hear the rain outside, it just started pouring. We have like flash flood watches tonight. So that's what might be coming through the microphone a little bit. David, one of the things I most admire about your company, even with, call it massive success, I'm doing air quotes for anybody listening on audio. As a company, you put in some pretty significant, unique financial guardrails around your convictions of generosity, not just hoarding more of the net profits. What are some of those guardrails? What did you do, and what's kind of been the impact of that down the road?
Yeah, first we just go to the scriptures, and the scriptures tells us God owns everything. So a lot of people would say that are Christians, but they don't live that. So living it is totally different than saying it.
Yeah.
So in our case, we've never taken, anyone in our family has never taken a dollar from the profits. It's not ours. This business, not because I say so, because the Bible says he owns everything. So we try to remember that and just be good stewards.
Yeah.
So what we think we ought to earn as family members is what we give to the company. So we have a group that decides how much your salary should be based on the job that you have. And so that's what we all receive. We receive a salary for what we have earned. And earn's a good word for a family. You have to earn it to get it. And so that's the kind of the guardrails that we use, is the fact that does not belong to us. We're stewards, and we just want to be good stewards what God has given us.
Yeah, Tim, if I can underscore some of that, just because I know some of your listening audience, that idea of not giving more to your kids, I can't tell you how many times in the work that I do where I've seen parents who've given so much to their kids where they don't have to work. And you just have to be really careful about how much you're going to pass on, unless you've been really careful about passing on a work ethic. The idea that I've got to earn it, that I've got to continue to be, we say that you got to be a great wealth creator, not just a wealth consumer. Because if all you are is a wealth consumer, your family is in deep trouble and they're not going to make it. So that's been, I think, one of the key guardrails for me as I've watched their family, but the other families that I've worked with, is this idea of let's not pass on so much unless we're really clear about the values and the work ethic. So that's a big, big guardrail. But couple that, by the way, then with what they do. Every single month, they have a family giving meeting. So there's a big lesson around that. How often do you have a regular family meeting? Do you have a regular family rhythm by which you meet? Because the family giving, again, I get to look at this, I watch them, and David and I talk about this a lot with other leaders. But that rhythm around family giving is a way to reinforce family values.
What does a meeting like that look like? Like, I think for some people that might be a whole new idea. So, give us a sneak peek for what a meeting like that looks like.
First we know that it belongs to God. So we start there. You have to start there. And so we all get a salary. So everybody has to work to get a salary. No one gets any money that they don't earn. So earn is a real important. And so there's 7 of us that are family members in Gen 1 and Gen 2 that comes together once a month, and we decide how we're going to gift this money. And there's a lot the Bible talks about in terms of, in the multitude of counsel, there's safety. So I think there's safety in having 7 of us come together once a month and decide how we're going to gift this money. So we receive requests, and we don't receive requests. A proper way to say it is we pursue the ministries we're going to get involved with. And so one of the 7 has to bring it to the table for it to be looked at. Yeah. So once a month we look at that. We have Gen 3 in there. Our grandkids, they can sit in and watch us. And so that's when we decide how we're going to gift the money that God has given us. And so we do that every month. And that's always an exciting time to be able to do the things that God has allowed us to do.
Yeah.
And Tim, I'd zoom out on that one a little bit just to say that the idea of the family meeting, again, applies to anybody. We particularly love to see it with families with young kids. And typically we encourage them to start with the idea of updates. Is there anything going on that we need to know about?
Yeah.
Is there anything in the schedule? We want them to review vision, mission, values. And then we want them to review any goals. Are there any things we're working on? Like, particularly when you got little kids, it's like, hey, we are going to go on a family vacation, or this is big upcoming. And you're reviewing those rhythms and family giving. If you got a family business, you include that on the agenda. Increasingly, we're telling people to put any conflict issues on the table. Is there anything that we need to discuss that maybe we don't want to? So that's some of what we're seeing was the agendas that families are developing. David can talk about it. They also do an annual family celebration where they review vision, mission, values. You want to mention that?
Yeah, Bill helped us come up with a document where we know what our mission, vision, and our values are. Okay, so we have a document, and it's good to have a document that this is who we're about. So Gen 1 and 2 came up with that. We worked on weekends. We finally came up with it. Then we gave it to Gen 3. Is there anything that you can't accept, or is anything you want to change? I think they changed a couple of scriptures, so we have a document now that just says, this is who we are. This is who our family is. And it's a family that loves one another. We care for one another. If you're swimming away from the Lord, you're swimming against a huge current. So we love one another. We care for one another. And I think that has helped us really keep the family together. We're all serving the Lord to the best we can. We're not perfect at it, but we're serving the Lord. But I think that mission, vision, and values has really helped us keep the family together. So we come together once a year. We celebrate. We talk about what we're about and what the family's about. And then, of course, once a month we come together. Gen 3 can be part of the 7, and they can listen to what we're looking at, what God is directing us to give to. And so it's an exciting time once a month just to know that God has given us these profits that we're able to give away, and we're just stewards, that we don't own it.
Hey, by the way, Tim, fun fact, there's 47 or 48 family members. It's going up progressively.
Yeah.
But they all live in Oklahoma City. They're all still here.
out.
That is so
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. Has anyone opted out of the family business at all?
Almost everybody has opted out. There's very few of us. So we think that our job is to tell them to follow wherever God would lead them. So we don't try. We may see someone say, I think you could be good at this. Would you want this job? We may be involved in doing that, and we've done that a time or two. But we have a lot of family that are in different ministries,
Okay.
that are totally in different jobs. So there's not that many of us that are in the company. We just don't think it's our job to tell anybody that they ought to be anywhere. We just want them to follow God's lead. Wherever he leads you, we're going to support you, and that's kind of where we are.
In-laws, by the way, are treated the same as blood. So that's a bit unusual compared to what some families do.
Mm-hmm.
So they have
That's
some
really cool.
in-laws that are in key positions inside the company.
Yeah. Okay, so David, you don't take any of the profits of the company for yourself. What do you do with the profits? Where does that go?
Well, what we do is we were opening as many as 70 stores a year, and then COVID got it down to about 30, 35. So we're able to open those and pay for them with the profits we make. But before we do anything, we give half of our profits to ministry. So we've done that for about 20 years. Half of our profits go for ministries. Then the first thing you do after you do that, you pay the government their taxes, okay? So you don't have to pay tax on what you give. So that's 50%. Then you pay your taxes. Then you open stores. The reason you open stores is the best return on our investment. And then after that, we have an investment portfolio that we invest money. So that's kind of where it all goes. But the family receives a salary for whatever they do. And we think that's important, that no one gets to where, well, I can work or not work. I don't think God wants us that. He built us even before the fall to work. He put us on this earth to work. And I think it's not good for someone that may or may not work. And so I just choose to continue to work because
He's working 6 days a week,
Yeah,
Tim.
well,
So.
you gotta have something to do with your time.
That-
I don't advise people not to have something to do like fish hunt or whatever, but I've
Yeah.
never been excited about
I've
that.
tried to get him to golf, and
Yeah.
it is just not
Yeah.
happening, man.
You probably couldn't get me to do it either, Bill. So David, you and I were of the same mind on that one. David, that was going to be one of my questions is, okay, you're in your early 80s. You're still the CEO. That idea of like, what do you think about the idea of retirement on the whole?
Well, I think it's up to each person. I just think that first you ought to retire to something, not from something. And if you have something to retire
good.
to, God bless you.
Yeah.
And there's people that do that. So I think we're all different. For me, I don't have anything to retire to. So I have people that can take my place and maybe even do better than me. So If I retire, I'm going to go to Walmart and be a greeter, but I'm not going to do nothing. So right now, I'm enjoying what God has for me, and I enjoy working 6 days a week. I tell my wife if she feels like a widow, call me and I'll come home. But she always has something going on too. So we're excited about being able to work at the age that we are, and I don't know how much longer God has for me, but whatever it is, there's plenty of people that can. We tell our officers in this company, if I need you, I don't need you. And they know what I mean. They just mean
Yeah.
that I have a gun to my head if I need you. And so everybody has someone on the bench to take their place. And so God has given us a lot of really great people to make the success that we've had.
That's really cool. I loved in the chapter on short-term thinking, the comparison to retirement and how oftentimes in society today in America, that's like our longest term thinking, is oh yeah, we got to plan for the long term retirement, that date where we can hit the beach or go golf, and that's all that we do. You mentioned Del Webb communities, how those sprung up in the 50s and 60s, and Del Webb was Man of the Year. So I'm reading this chapter, you guys, on it was Friday of last week. I'm on a school bus because I'm going with two of my kids up to their church camp. I'm helping lead a group of young boys, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I look out the window and we're driving by a Del Webb community on the way up to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And just had to chuckle with that. I'm like, I don't think this is a coincidence.
Yeah.
And again, nothing wrong with the retirement lifestyle, but I love what you said there on how, like, we were made to work. We were wired to work. It's in all of us to be doing something and have purpose. And sometimes we get caught off guard by the messages of the world today that say, hey, you were meant to, or you've earned it, the life on the beach or the life at the golf course. But I think we've probably all talked to a lot of people who 6 months of doing that and they're pretty unhappy. Bill, what do you see as you're helping families navigate like the business sale or the retirement transition? What do you see people going after there?
Yeah, I think David hit it really well. If you're going to sell, then it is, what are you going to do next? And don't treat that as the opportunity to head to the beach and move away. In 1960, the percentage of families, like 72% of all families, were mom and dad, kids around the dinner table. 1962 was Del Webb Time Man of the Year, and he made popular this idea that, hey, it's my time now, so I'm going to move from Ohio and go to Florida so I can get out of the weather. And what's happened since 1962 is the family's been in decline, where today, now, even the traditional family of mom and dad, kids around the dinner table, it's in the minority. It's not even the majority anymore. It's like 37% of all families are what we used to be. And I would attribute a lot of that to some of this retirement mindset of move away and let my kids do their own thing. David's family, again, very unique. They're all here. And so part of the encouragement that we have to people is that, boy, if you're going to sell or you're going to step out of that, stay engaged in the family. And part of what we say is keep telling the family story, keep telling all the things of what's happened in the past. How did you get here? And repeat and repeat and repeat that story.
Yeah.
I think we tend to forget, by the way, that the Bible was written to an oral culture. And so they were a storytelling culture. And just the power of story. David's oldest son, Mart, he just talks about the power of story, and story gets ingrained in our soul. It's the emotion of who we are. And so in order to be a great storyteller, you need to be present. So be present. I'm always amazed too, by the way, just as I've watched David in his life, his kids, his grandkids, great-grandkids, they have access to him. Even though he's running a big company, he's available. So he's available to them, and that's a big, big deal.
Yeah. That's really cool. I can only imagine there's some people listening right now and they were like, oh man, I can't wait to hear about this story of business success and what were the tools that you used to get there. And we're hearing a lot about the Bible and Scripture and how that informs a lot of the choices that you make and the lifestyle that you and Barbara are leading, David, and also the importance of family and investing in your family first. And David, would you say those two things have helped the business along the way?
Oh, no question. No question. I saw some numbers the other day, and Hobby Lobby retains their employees longer than any other. We checked about 10 different companies, and I think a lot of it is they know that we're real strong on taking care of your family and being with your family and really having family is an important factor. It's not something that you put at the side. Most of us are real good at our business. Most of us are real good, and the harder part is our family, and for most of us. And so that's the time. That's the place we need to put more effort. Sometimes we put a lot of effort in our career and in our business, and this is what we talk to our people about. We say, no, that's good, but you really need to put a lot of time and effort in your marriage and in your children, and give that the most time. And so that's what we try to do ourselves, Barbara and I, and our family, and that's what we try to encourage others to do. And we get all that from God's Word. God's Word tells us and leads us on how to take care of the family and care and love for the family. So we just want to do that the best we can. And we find out that we have the very, very best employees because of that. They want to come to some place that cares about the family enough that they're closed on Sunday. They're closed a little earlier at night. And so that tells them that we do care about the family and want to do everything we can do to really put our emphasis on that and not to be the greatest retailer in the world or whatever. That's a sideline compared to our family. And that's, as I said earlier, what we decided when we first married, Barbara and I, that we wanted to have a marriage. We want children that serve the Lord, and God has given us those things. But I think we have to be intentional about our family. It doesn't just happen. And it really, as I said earlier too, I think it's one of the harder things we do. I think it's harder than business because you're very emotional about your family and things. It's just more important, and when something is more important, it's not as easy.
Yeah, that's really good, David. Well, David, what do you do in your, I guess, like in your personal life, or maybe what are some of your like personal rhythms as a CEO? I'm asking this like CEO to CEO. What are some of the things that you've done over the years that you're like, I have to do this every day? That helped you manage putting the family first, running the business well, taking care of your people? What are some of the personal things that you do to really set yourself up for that?
Well, if you're talking about outside the family and you're talking about business, I think I have a few things that I think are very important. And one of them is, what is the main thing? In our business, the main thing is buying and selling merchandise. Okay, so I spend 80% of my time with buyers. So I've got all kinds of departments, the legal department, the warehouse that ships goods out to stores every day, the accounting department. I have a lot of different departments that are really, really good at what they do. But the main thing in our business is buying and selling merchandise. So I think we just need to make the main thing the main thing. And that's the same thing with the Bible. The main thing is Christ died for us. He saved us. He will forgive us. And so I want to do the same thing in terms of what we do in our ministries and giving. But for me, it's just a matter of really being excited about being involved in just buying and selling merchandise. So that's how we got here, and that's how I'm going to continue to work about 80% of my time in that department.
Little commentary for me, Tim, just things I've observed. Again, I get an interesting seat on this bus, but
Yeah.
David does start every day with coffee and either it's bagel or toast.
Bagel
Kind of
and toast,
alternate.
yeah.
And then they split a napkin. So for some reason, they don't think they can afford napkins, so they split one.
That's what Barbara comes from. When you come from that, you just come from that. So she tears one in half, and we get a half a napkin for breakfast.
But he comes to work, and he doesn't have a computer, so there's no distractions related to email. Only recently. Now, David's actually pretty tech savvy in terms of being able to tell the tech people the kind of data that he wants, but he's not distracted by email. He does have a good assistant who can get access to him, but he's never sitting behind the desk. He's always out and about. And usually you're probably with the buyers but he's rarely behind his desk. And so that's just a practice that I've observed. We did write another book called Leadership Not by the Book and details some of those practices, but then he's out of here by 5:15. And, generally, even as the company was growing, he wasn't working long hours. And so he's not leaving with a laptop and he's not leaving with a briefcase.
But I have my pad. This is my pad. And so until about a year ago, I never had a phone that I carried with one in my car.
Yeah.
So that's the way but I don't suggest it for anybody else. It's just the way that I operated. So,
David, what do you write on your pad?
Well, you
What
should
goes in
ask
there?
well, what do you want to know? This is my 26 kids and grandkids and great-grandkids.
You got their names in there.
Okay.
And this page right here talks about the ministries we're involved in. This page here has all my buyers and merchandise managers. This page here has all the restaurants. If you don't know where you're going to eat, you look there, and there's about 40 restaurants. So it's just everything you would want to know.
Do you have information on your competitors and some of those kind of things?
Yeah, we
well?
have some of that in here, and sometimes I just put a scripture in here. So if there's several scriptures that I don't want to forget, and so I put them in here as well. But everybody operates different, and I don't suggest anybody operate the way I do. But I'm not real crazy with technology, but we have a good technology department. But I'm not that. I'm pretty old school, and so this is what we pretty much run the company by.
Yeah, and it works. All right, so if you're listening, you heard it. Coffee, bagel, toast, alternate, split half a napkin, and carry around a notepad with all the important people in your life. And there you go. So that's awesome. That's really cool. I love what I heard, David, in your MyPad was the theme through that was people. The people in your family, the values of your faith, and the people in your company. And it seems like a theme is you take care of people, and the people will take care of the business.
That's all right. That's good. Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. What David? So which restaurants at the top of the list for you and Barbara? Like what are some of the go-tos for you guys?
Well, there's a couple Mexicans in here, Mexican restaurants, a couple barbecue in here, a couple steakhouses in here, but everything's in here. So there's only about 40 of them, but sometimes you don't know where you want to eat, and you get this, and you always find something. They kind of raise you out. And so,
yeah, but when I'm in town, I try to get him to a new restaurant to get him out of his zone,
Yeah. There you go. David, have you ever added one of Bill's restaurants to the MyPad?
No.
But he's from Kansas City, and they have barbecue. We don't have a lot of barbecue here,
Yeah.
And you got to go to Texas to get good Mexican food. But anyway, we're good.
That's awesome. David, you talked about, you have family members in the business, some not in the business. You're in your early 80s running the business. It's extremely successful. I'm sure there's been offers to buy Hobby Lobby from the family. What do you think when those offers come across the table, or is there a scenario where you're like, you know what, I think we would sell?
I have zero reason to sell the company because I think that this is a ministry. It's not a company. I'm not going to sell a ministry, and the ministry is going to go on and on and on until the Lord returns. And so we see ourselves more stores, more profit, more ministries, more people to tell about Jesus. So that's how we see our business. We don't see it all. We have no idea. It doesn't even come in our mind to sell on what is a ministry. So our job should be, God has put us here for a purpose. Our purpose should all be ministry. What ministry are we involved in? And this is the ministry God has given us. So I don't think we're supposed to sell the ministry God has given us. So we think it's better for long term to help ministries to stay in business and just to be bigger and better. We only want to be bigger because we're going to be better. I make almost the same as I did 20 years ago, so I don't make that much more. It's not about me. It's about the ministry. So we just see it as we wouldn't even give it a minute's thought about selling the business. We just see it as something that can continue to give ministry to other people and do more tomorrow than we did today.
Tim, there was a guy out of Nebraska that made a certain inquiry on the business, but they did not consider it. And I do think it goes back to this idea of the legacy life. And we will say it sometimes that if you want your family to succeed, not only now, but for the generations to come, David's got the business set up where the fourth generation should be able to step. Now, we don't know yet who will be in the fourth generation. Fourth generation now, the oldest, I think, is get ready to turn 16. But if you think, hey, this is a generational business, but think about it, there's 50-some thousand employees here, and there's literally probably 1,000+ vendors that are impacted by this, let alone the charitable giving that they do. When we do estimates on business like this, a business like this literally has the influence over probably a couple billion people. I mean, it is a profound thing. And then if you multiply that out generationally, it becomes this huge, incredible number. And so why would you want to sell? In fact, the incentive would be, how do you keep this goose alive? That's what your focus should be. How do we keep it alive? Because as you do that, we do see the successful families that continue generationally. There's usually a business at stake, or there's a family foundation, or in David's case, he talks about it as the ministry. There's usually got to be a reason to be for the family to keep being successful.
Yeah, that's really good. One of the lines that stuck out to me in the book, and there's a bunch, David, you said, my job is to make a great handoff. What are some of the things that first of all, I think that's very countercultural. It's like, my job is to get the highest value for the business and sell it to private equity. And then they're going to flip it in 3 to 5 years. And hopefully everybody will be okay. And it's often not the case. What are you doing right now in order to make a great handoff? What are some of the things that you're putting in place to do that?
I think the main thing for me to do that is to make sure that if I'm not here, it runs just as good, if not better, than it's running. And it continues to do what it's doing. And that is, we're doing a lot in different ministries in ministry. And we don't see it as something to get a bunch of money, or we don't want a bunch of money. My mother, when I like to be a little bit like her, because sometimes people, well, what are you going to do with this? You could sell this, blah, blah, blah. And I think in my case of my mother, there's nothing in this world my mother wanted, nothing. And I find myself the same way. There's nothing that I want. There's nothing in this world that I have. And so what do I want? And if there's money, there's nothing I want. I've got a couple good cars. I got a home. What else do I need? I don't need anything else. And so I want to be like my mother and say, look, this world has nothing that I want. And she's content. I'm content in terms of financially. And but I make less than I did 20 years ago if you look at the cost of living. So it's not about that. It's about continuing this to tell more people about Jesus. And that's what we do. The main thing in the retail business is buying and selling merchandise. The main thing in serving the Lord is telling people about the one thing. Christ came, he died for you, he paid for your sins. That's the main thing. So we want to make the main thing the main thing. And that is what we want to do with this business as it grows and continues. So we've set it up to where it's just going to continue as we see it with Gen 2 and Gen 3, eventually Gen 4 if the Lord tarries.
There are a couple G3s that are in key positions in the company. So there is the opportunity, certainly at the third generation, where we'll see family continue to be involved. Generation 4, well, some of that's going to sit with how well Generation 2 and 3 do ultimately. And you've probably heard this said, Tim, before, that every generation always has to act like the first generation. If you don't take the responsibility for this idea of vision, mission, values of the next generation, it doesn't happen unless you're intentional about it.
Wow.
We're not really concerned about Gen 2 and 3. Gen 3 are coming up, and they will take the place. Some of them will take the place of my place and so forth. So we're not at all concerned about if I'm not here tomorrow. We're not at all concerned. I'm concerned because I want to come to work and I want a place to go. But other than that, God has set this company up with family and non-family members that we think it will continue to be very blessed if we do what we're supposed to do with it. And that's understand it's not ours. The Bible says it's not ours, so we accept that he owns everything. And so we're excited that he allows us to do what we do.
Yeah. That's really cool. And your faith, David, what strikes me, it seems normal to you, but I think for a lot of people listening, they might even think like, what is he talking about? Like, I thought the Bible was a list of rules, of do's and don'ts. But your faith to you is worth, call it sacrificing company profits so that you can do good in the world, so that you can continue to work and never retire. It's on the surface, it sounds very strange, but talking to you, you're really content, and you also want to keep going because why stop? Where's that come from?
Well, I think content is a good word, and when you're content, the money means nothing to you. You know, there's a point where it just doesn't mean anything. Like I referred to my mother. My mother passed away, and she was the richest woman ever. I paid for her funeral, but she was rich because she wanted nothing. When you want nothing, you have everything. She prayed. She was with the Lord every day. She had children to serve God. My mother was super wealthy. And that's what I want to be. I want to be wealthy, and I'm wealthy if I want nothing. And so I'm not giving up anything, because there's nothing. You don't give up if you don't have nothing that you want. There's nothing that in this world had that I want. And so to some extent, I'm glad I'm like my mother and father that way. They were very content with what they had, and I am. And so it allows us, and our family, I think, are growing up the same way. We're not out here just, hey, I have a nice car, I have a nice home, I have those things. But after that, then what else is there, you know? And so it's exciting just to be able to do something that changes lives for eternity, you know? So that's exciting that God would let us be part of doing that.
What you talked about a question in the book that your mom would ask you. You'd come home and you'd be like, I got this new promotion at work. And what was the question that she would ask you after you came home and
I would
talked
say,
about the
hey,
promotion?
Mom, I'm the youngest store manager. I've got this. What are you doing for the Lord? You know, and then I'd come back. Oh, now I'm supervisor. What are you doing for the Lord? So sometimes I say, if I come home and say, hey, Mom, I'm president of the United States, she'd say, what are you doing for the Lord? You know, she's really right. All of that stuff is temporary, but what you're doing for the Lord is eternal. So we really, you know, I think we've gotten it down to there's two lives, and one's vapor and one's eternal. And where are you going to spend your time in your life? Now, there has to be balance in life. We have fun. We enjoy life, things of that nature. There has to be a certain balance, but we also need to understand that this life is very short. It's very temporal, and we should be working for ourselves and others to let them know the good news. And that's hopefully what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the places where you guys are investing right now that you're really excited about? Whether it's making strategic investments or also helping nonprofit organizations. What are the ones that you get excited about?
Well, we have a grandson that does the investments turn profit, okay, and I can't help you there much. He tells me they're doing pretty good. I don't know, but anyway. But of course, God has given us ORU and with others helping it, and we've been investing in that. We've been investing in One Hope and Every Home for Christ. Both of those, One Hope is giving the gospel to children. We've been able to give the gospel to with other investors. More than 2 billion children have gotten the gospel. We've been able to go to over 1 billion homes with the gospel with Every Home for Christ. More recently, we've been working on a ministry that's He gets us. He gets us is something that we've been involved with others. We don't want to take that. And we've been involved with Chosen. So those are some of the newer things that we're involved with. But all of them pretty much are involved in just telling people the good news. And so that's what we're excited
You forgot
about.
Museum of the Bible.
Yeah, the Museum of the Bible. There's other ones. But
Bible translation efforts.
My son's involved in getting.
So big projects that are. Mart, your oldest son, says that, you know, we want to be involved in projects that are so big that they're bigger than any one family and bigger than any one organization. So what's your collective impact as opposed to just your individual impact?
Yeah. So Mart is involved with getting the 6,000 languages completed. And if the most exciting thing for me when we go to the Bible Museum is the room that you've got the ones that are translated, the ones they're working on, the ones they haven't started on. And the goal is by the year 2033 to have the 6,000 languages where everybody has the God's Word. So that's just one of the projects that we've been working. And I always have to say with others, there's a lot of people on board to help do that. But we're one of part of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. This is a side note, personal story. After we finish recording, I'm going to get picked up by my wife and daughter. We're going to do college visits, flying into Baltimore, and we might have a window to go to the Museum of the Bible tomorrow afternoon. So I was just looking at tickets today.
I hope you do.
You better text me, Tim. We might be able to get you a little tour there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, that's great.
I hope you can make it.
Yeah.
You haven't been there yet?
No, we have not been there yet.
All right.
Yeah,
Good.
I hope so. Oh, that's great. That's great. David, I promised my kids I would ask you a question related to Hobby Lobby, but also related to them. And I know being CEO of an organization, you don't know everything that's going on in the organization, but there's a YouTuber is what they call it these days, who's making videos. His name's Ryan Trahan. He's probably in his 20s, and he's traveling around the United States, hitting 50 states in 50 days with him and his wife. And they are raising money for St. Jude's Research Hospital. He has quite a following. Millions of people watch his videos all the time. And every single day, they're raising money for St. Jude's, and they're posting who donates to it. And I want to say, and we've been watching as a family. It's just been great. They stay at a really interesting Airbnb. They talk about raising money for St. Jude's. They travel around, and they went to a Hobby Lobby, I think in episode 41, which is just a couple weeks ago in North Dakota, because Hobby Lobby was one of the organizations that donated and said, hey, this is right in line with our mission. Here's $100,000 for St. Jude's. And we'll give another $25,000 if you go to Hobby Lobby and record going through the store and buying some stuff. And so they did in North Dakota and recorded it. So question number one, have you been following the series and watching that at all?
No, I haven't. I wished I had, but I have not.
Yeah,
I have not.
It's worth
Sounds
checking out.
interesting.
Yeah, and they'll even read a message from the company or the family who donated on like, hey,
Good.
here's what we like about it. And I just thought it was great. But they visited the store. Ryan also has a low sugar candy called Joyride, and they said, hey, let's talk about getting your candy into the stores one day.
Okay. All right.
So
Good.
pretty cool. Guys, I'd like to end with this one question. And it's pretty open-ended, but it's what's one thing that you're loving right now? This could be a person, it could be a book, a movie, an experience, a memory, but what's one thing that you're loving right now? And Bill, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of reading and studying just about the history of the family. And it's fascinating to me. Of course, in the U.S., we have a very Western view of family, which was we raise our kids up and we kick them out. That's the idea of raise them up to independence. Nothing wrong with being independent, but around the world, the family is largely viewed as a collective. It's a team. We work together, and we work together to advance. And so that perspective just around family is really probably the biggest thing I'm reading, learning, but also working on, is really changing some of the perspective on how we think about family much more as a team than just me as an individual.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I loved your, in the Legacy Life, the chapter on, it was a chapter on family, and you had a great chart of just the breakdown between what does society view family as, and what's a biblical view of what family looks like, and just contrasting the two, I thought was really, really helpful. So for anybody who's picking up the book, that's a great resource in that chapter.
Yeah.
So, David, what about you? What's one thing you're loving right now?
Well, right now, as we started within the last 2 or 3 years, just working to do everything we can to change our culture. Our culture needs to be changed. And we're seeing that it is. It is, whoever's doing it, we think hopefully we're part of that.
Yeah.
And just to change the culture that we live in needs to happen, and hopefully that we can be a part of that. So that's the most exciting thing I think that we're involved now, relatively new. And we feel like that God is helping us to make a dent in it anyway. So that's exciting.
That's really exciting. I know I personally, if you're listening and you've seen the He Gets Us commercials during the Super Bowl, and the Green family is a part of making those possible. I know for me, watching with my friends or something like that, everybody kind of like tunes in and is like, whoa, this is really interesting. And so thanks for the work that you're doing there, because that's really important stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on, Tim.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. Hey there. If this episode impacted you, would you share it with a friend right now? That would mean a lot to me. And even better, if you could leave a review of the show. Maybe mention what part of this conversation stuck with you. On the first Tuesday of each month, we're going to bring you some more stories of great leaders who have learned what it means to be truly wealthy. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to drop that on the first Thursday of each month. So keep an eye on that. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.